Why might you want to have a trust? It's a really good question. A lot of people don't even really understand what a trust is, which is understandable. A trust is like a suitcase. It holds your assets, and the trust says what happens to your assets under certain circumstances. For instance, what happens when I die to my assets that are inside my trust. I think of a trust like a suitcase because the trust says what happens to the assets that are held inside of the suitcase. And with a revocable living trust, which is the most common kind of trust that people have when they have a foundational estate plan, with a revocable living trust, the assets are held in a really flexible way, meaning you can put assets into your trust, take assets out of your trust, and you can amend the trust however you like. So it's a very flexible way to hold your assets. And once your assets are put into a trust, you really interact with them in the same way as if they were outside of the trust. So the reasons that you might want to have a trust, in general, one of the main reasons is that people would like to avoid probate. Probate is the court process that your assets have to pass through in order to be retitled and also to pay your creditors. Your assets pass through probate if you die without a will or if you die with a will and no trust. If you have a trust acts like a will substitute. A will says who gets what, a trust says who gets what, but a trust is a private document and it does not have to go through probate. So probate is a really expensive process that takes a long time in California, and it's also public, meaning that people can go down to the courthouse and see what your heirs are getting. The cost of probate in California is very high, and many of those costs can be avoided if you have a trust. If you've ever been through probate, you might have some understanding of why you'd want to avoid it, but it can be a long and arduous process that your heirs have to go through when you pass away. Having a trust in some ways is like a gift to your heirs because you're getting them out of probate. Another really great reason to have a trust goes along with avoiding probate, but is if you own property in more than one state, real property has to pass through probate court in the state where it's located. So if you have property in more than one state and you don't have a trust, your heirs are going to have to go through probate in more than one state. Typically that requires more than one attorney because most attorneys aren't qualified to practice in various states, and it can just create a logistical headache. When you have a trust, you put all of your real property into your trust, whether it's in California or any other state, and then the trust passes the property and you entirely avoid probate for all of the states where you've got the property in the trust. Another reason that it's nice to have a trust rather than just a will is if you become incapacitated during your lifetime. When you have a trust, you name successor trustees. While you're alive, you're the trustee of your trust. But once you pass away, or if you were to become incapacitated, the people that you've named as successor trustees step into your place and can manage the assets in the trust for your benefit if you're still alive and incapacitated. A will only comes into play when you die. A will is basically a worthless stack of documents until you die, but a trust can help support you and your family if you become incapacitated. People say that having a trust is like a gift to your family, and that's really true because without a trust, when you pass away or if you become incapacitated, things are very difficult to manage. With a trust, things are much easier to manage. And it's a good idea to consider unburdening your family when the sad day comes when you're not around anymore. If you'd like to chat more about why you might want to have a trust, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat.